Hey, this is the Bun Mom Life with me, Jessie, and my 4 bunnies, Rue, Linus, Timo, and Kumo. Come and join us for stories about our journey as a bunny family. Let's hop to it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bun Mom Life. Today's episode is on a topic that we've been asked about a lot. What happens if you take one bunny to the vet and the other stays home? Will their bond break? Let me start by saying I'm definitely not an expert on this. I'm just sharing our own personal experience and some things that we've read about or heard about from other bunny parents. And for context, just because we often get asked this question as well, both Rue and Kumo are fixed. So Rue was spayed and Kumo was already neutered as well. So, what's the general advice when it comes to bringing your bunnies to the vet? Most sources do recommend bringing both bunnies to vet visits if they're bonded. That way, they can offer each other comfort and companionship in a very stressful and unfamiliar setting. Also, if they're both exposed to the same smells at the vet, they're less likely to get confused or territorial when they return home, since that weird vet smell is now on both of them. That said, with bonded pairs, we've actually heard stories from all sides. Some bonded pairs are totally fine when only one goes to the vet, and they have no issues at all. But there are also other stories where a single vet visit has led to post-visit aggression and did lead to serious fights. I personally don't think I know of a bunny friend whose pair had a complete bond break because of this, but I have read about that happening. I just don't know anyone personally. More often, I've heard of bonded buns needing a bit of a cool down period, so separate for a day or a few before they're okay again. I personally believe that, like so many things with bunnies, it really depends on the individual buns and their bond. Every bun is different, and their relationships are also just as unique. There are some general tendencies, that's for sure, but at the end of the day, I think it really just comes down to really knowing your own buns and observing them closely and doing what works for them, which, let's be honest, is not easy and can involve a ton of trial and error. So what happened with our 2? Well, let's get into it. It was a bit of a roller coaster ride, and some of what happened we actually didn't share on Instagram, so you're hearing it here first. Did Rue and Kumo go to the vet? Yes. Did they go together? Originally, yes. Did they fight afterward? Yep. Did we have to separate them? Unfortunately, yes. Are they okay now? Absolutely. If you follow us on Instagram, you've seen Rue and Kumo are back to their usual big sister, little brother dynamic selves. No fights. So far. I actually documented the timeline of everything that was happening as it was happening on my phone, so I'm going to read from that to walk you through it. Sunday, March 9th. Around 9:30 p.m. was when Bun Dad noticed Kumo wasn't acting like himself. Every night, they have their Bun Dad Bun Bun ritual, where Bun Dad will sit on the floor and give them their pets, give them the rest of their pellets, and spend a ton of time with them before he goes to bed. Kumo had finished the rest of the pellets, he had jumped into the litter box and was munching on some hay, and literally about 15-20 minutes later, was when Bun Dad noticed that he wasn't acting like himself. Kumo normally is very high energy and super food driven, so it's very, very obvious when he's not well. He was just lying there, he was uncomfortable, he was constantly shifting positions, which is always a sign that there's some discomfort or pain, and the bunny's trying to alleviate it. We didn't take any risks. We called the emergency vet, and at 10:30 p.m., we brought Kumo to the hospital. Thankfully, our vet clinic is 24 hours. The exotics team isn't 24 hours, but they actually trained their emergency team to be able to handle the basics of bunnies when they're going through stasis or when they're not well. When we brought Kumo to the vet, Rue went along as well. But since Kumo had to stay overnight, unfortunately, then we had to bring Rue back home by herself. The next day, Monday, March 10th, Kumo had recovered well overnight and we brought him home around 4 p.m. Kumo was really sleepy, probably from the pain meds, and Rue sniffed him cautiously. Nothing serious happened yet, but Rue was definitely suspicious. Kumo would approach her like usual. As soon as his sleepiness was wearing off, he became more of his clingy, high-energy self. And Rue, who normally wouldn't mind, was suddenly on high alert. And she would sometimes jump into a defensive stance like she was ready to fight. We figured that it was probably all of the vet smells on Kumo, and so we would try to soothe both of them. We'd pet Rue to reassure her, we'd calm Kumo down so he wasn't rushing at her, and they did okay for a couple of days. Then on Thursday, March 13th, that was when a big fight happened. I was upstairs preparing things for bed. Bun Dad had just come home from a soccer game, and the Bun Buns were doing really well in the main living area. So Bun Dad came upstairs and jumped into the shower. Shortly after was when I heard all these sounds and noises coming from downstairs, and I knew right away that they were fighting. I ran downstairs, Bun Dad followed after me shortly, and there was fur everywhere. I quickly separated them. I don't even remember which bunny I picked up, but I picked up one of them and ran upstairs with one, kept the other one downstairs, and that night, they slept apart. The following day, Friday, March 14th, Kumo actually already had a scheduled dental procedure that was booked a while ago, and Rue also had her regular checkup. So we brought them both to the vet in one carrier, and there were no issues in the car. We explained to our vet and the vet techs about the recent tension between the two of them, and our vet techs, who are absolute angels, said that they would keep them together in one of their larger enclosures that they have for bonded buns at their clinics, and as long as they were getting along, they'd stay together, and if they were having any issues or if there was any fighting, they would separate them but still keep them side by side if needed. And they monitor them the whole time. They're really the best. And guess what? The Bun Buns were totally fine at the clinic. They were snuggling, Rue was grooming Kumo. It was like the fight never happened. And Kumo's procedure went very smoothly. When he came home, he was already jumping right back into chewing his toys, and he was full of energy again, and he was eating his hay. It was great. But as soon as we got home, Rue was skeptical all over again. She was back to being wary of Kumo, and we still don't understand why. So from the 14th to the 19th, we were super, super cautious. They had some wonderful moments of snuggling, grooming, sleeping side by side. But out of the blue, they could still snap at each other. So we would keep them together during the day when they were sleepier, but separate them at night and whenever we left the house. How we separated them was just using fences dividing the space in half. Both of them still had plenty of space to roam around and run around and get their exercise. They didn't have full free roaming space of the entire home, but they were still pretty content. And day by day, things were getting better and better. I'm not sure if it's because the smells from the vets was wearing off, and so Rue was feeling better about being around Kumo, or maybe the stress of everything had died down, and that makes both bunnies in better moods. It could be both of those reasons. But they were able to stay together for longer without any issues. Rue was no longer freaking out when Kumo would rush at her. She would stay calm. And we even saw, at last, finally, Kumo grooming Rue, which goes a long, long way for getting on Rue's good side. So that was the moment that we felt safe keeping them together overnight again. And that's the overview of the first time this happened. As for Kumo's health, his tests didn't reveal what caused the episode. Bunny stasis is so tricky. It can be triggered by anything. Nothing in their environment had changed. We didn't change anything that they were eating, so it was quite confusing for us. What we did try was we stopped giving them the hay box. It's a chew toy that they both absolutely love. But we didn't know what else to do, so we eliminated that just in case. They've never had issues with that chew toy before. But I guess with things like that, you also never really know. Maybe the hay inside wasn't as fresh, or it was sitting on the shelf for a little too long. Honestly, we'll never really be sure. And in terms of their bond, we've learned that if we need to separate them for a vet visit, the best plan is this. Once they're back home, keep them visually and spatially close, but physically separate overnight, at least for a few days. Let them be together in small, supervised bursts during the day, and then give them a chance to slowly readjust. After a few days, the tension fades and they're good again. Their bond is still strong. We've never had to re-bond them from scratch, meaning their bond never actually broke. They just needed time to cool down, time apart, and they were totally fine and their usual selves again afterwards. I don't know if this makes a difference, but their fights have also never escalated to injuries. They just got a lot of fur pulling, which is horrifying to see, but they never got anything more serious than that. And yep, as I kind of alluded to earlier, this has happened more than once now. After a more recent dental procedure, Kumo had another pretty rough night and had to stay at the hospital again. We suspect it's because he actually needed a longer dose of painkillers, and so when the painkillers wore off and he was still in discomfort from the procedure, he went into stasis because of that. So poor Kumo had to stay at the hospital again. And again, when we reunited Rue and Kumo, the same pattern repeated. So we did the same thing. We gave them some distance, we gave them some patience, and then, a few days later, they were okay. Is it stressful? Yes, absolutely. And it feels awful when we have to separate them. But when the fences get removed and we see them eating side by side and they're grooming each other again, and Rue's no longer flinching when Kumo zoomies up to her, the relief is so real. It's like this giant weight just lifts off of our shoulders. The biggest sign that tells us that they're okay is when Kumo charges towards Rue in his usual energetic way, and Rue just stays lying down, totally unbothered. Or when Kumo's sniffing her butt again, and Rue is just, that's all right. I'm okay here. That's when we know Queen Rue is comfortable. All is well. Because from Kumo's perspective, he's just come home from the vet. Rue smells the same, home smells the same. We're not sure if he knows he smells different. And suddenly Rue's like, back off, mister. I imagine that he must be so confused. So that is what we've gone through. We've heard similar stories from other bun parents. Some have said they only needed 24 hours apart and that was enough. For Rue and Kumo, both times it's taken around 5 to 7 days before we felt completely confident that the peace would last. And that's that. That's our story and our experience. Now, some of you submitted some questions to us in regards to this episode over on our Instagram, so I'm just going to address some of them right now. One question is, did either Rue or Kumo get more defensive than the other, and do the roles shift? In our instances, it was really only Rue getting defensive, and that's because it was always Kumo who had to stay at the vet's overnight. We've never had it the other way around, so we're not sure what would happen if it was Rue staying overnight at the vet's and Kumo being at home. But I imagine something similar would have happened. Another question we got was, what made you stay faithful about rebonding them? I can honestly say that there are certain times where I was afraid, dreadfully afraid, that their fight was so serious that they would never want to be together again. Especially in those days where 1 minute they were snuggling and then another minute they were ripping each other's fur out. But I think it's because we saw that they did have those very precious, wonderful moments of snuggling and being so happy together that made us feel confident that they were actually okay. It's just that there were certain behaviors from one or the other that would suddenly irritate or frustrate them, and their capacity for patience was very low. So we just needed to give them time to get used to each other and each other's antiques again. We've experienced with Rue and Timo where as soon as they were put in a space together, they would attack. And the fights were vicious and aggressive. There was never a single moment of peace between the two of them. And that was very discouraging for us. But with Rue and Kumo, because they had moments, many moments, of snuggling and eating together and being able to lie down near each other without issues, we knew the bond was still there. And that's why, even with the frustrations and sometimes some doubts, we were still fairly confident that they would be okay. Another question is, what should I keep in my bonding kit? Example, spray bottle? For us, for bonding, we actually didn't have a bonding kit really. All we used in our bonding was fences, mats on the floor that were neutral, and a dustpan so that we could separate them without getting hurt. And that was it. We didn't have anything else, but we have heard of other bun parents that use things that help calm their bunnies down, like certain types of candles. We've never tried that, but you can definitely look into that and see if it might work for your buns. And that is all for today's episode. Thank you everyone for hanging out with us today and for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you found it helpful. Feel free to send us a message over on our Instagram or send us an email at thebunmomlife@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. And remember, you are loved and cherished always. Our Bun Buns send you lots of boops. Bye! Hey, we're back. Sort of. Just popping in to say a friendly reminder that we are not licensed professionals here on the Bun Mom Life podcast. Everything that we've shared is just our own personal stories and experiences. So if you have any questions or concerns or need any advice about your bunny, please do consult a professional or an exotic vet. All right, we'll see you next time.